want to thank my brother Aaron because, yeah, he's the one who came up with the idea for this whole webinar. We did one webinar on pickup and delivery, and you can find the other webinars at curbsidelaundries.com. And so, so if you're interested in learning about pickup and delivery or how to get commercial accounts or how to price commercial accounts, we've got whole webinars on that. And then we did one webinar on supercharging pickup and delivery with great marketing information, just goes really into the nitty gritty. And then for this, I was thinking we got to do something even more for pickup and delivery because let's bring it back to basics, teach people the fundamentals of wash and fold. We wouldn't have Curbside if it wasn't for him because he's the one who grew the business at SuperSuds through the website and creating the process and all those things. And so I'm very thankful because I like what I do. So anyways, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron. He's going to answer. I know many of you answer the questions throughout the webinar, ask questions throughout the webinar. So just as a reminder, it's on that tab on the right. You could hit the orange arrow to show the questions section, and you could go ahead and ask any questions you want. And meanwhile, he's going to answer some questions that were asked during the webinar. So I want to hand it over to Aaron. And thank you again for everybody who came here and attended. So thank you.
So I'll try and keep up with the questions as they're starting to spill in right now. So one of them is related to pickup delivery. Do you have a missed pickup fee? We don't charge extra if somebody misses. If somebody is a continuous problem, we cancel them off the route. And they can drop off their clothes. We just find that if somebody is a good customer, we don't want to penalize them let's say $10 for a missed pickup fee, and risk losing the customer that spends hundreds or thousands of dollars a year. All right, do you charge blankets and comforters separately from other laundry? We do. We charge separately for comforters, whether they're twin and full comforters or king and queen. We also charge extra for down comforters. So comforters take up much more space in a washing machine, often a dedicated machine just for the comforters. So if you charge them by the pound, the comforter might weigh 5-6 pounds, but it takes up a triple loader. Also, down comforters take hours to dry oftentimes. So you want to make sure that you get compensated for the extra time it takes to process those orders. Somebody was asking about getting more orders per day or more customers per day. What we do at Our Laundry is exclusively Google AdWords, and we do a couple of different. So one, we have a search engine optimized website, and two, we advertise specifically for pickup and delivery. We figure our web presence is enough to attract the self-service customers and drop-off customers, so we focus on pickup and delivery in our marketing. It takes time to build. If you recall from the growth chart, early on, our growth was, maybe a couple $100 a month more than the previous month. And eventually, after brand awareness takes place, it starts to kind of snowball after that. Somebody was asking about the disclaimer on the back of the tickets. So the disclaimers are a pre-printed disclaimer that Cleaner Supply sells. So we use their legal terminology. I believe it says something to the effect of up to 3 times or 10 times the amount of the actual order is what we'd be responsible for in damages, and protects you or caps you at that amount. Yeah, if you go to Cleaner Supply's website, you can see some of the back prints on those thermal receipts. And part of that question is, how do you handle customer complaints? That's a good question. We make mistakes, and in fact, we've probably made every mistake possible, and that's what we learn from. Not that I'm trying to challenge anybody to have made other mistakes that we haven't made, but the number of orders that we've done and number of customers, we have made our share of mistakes. So if it's our mistake, we always do what we can to make it right with the customer. What we pay out to the customer, if it's damaged items or lost items, is cheaper than the cost of a negative review on Yelp or Facebook or Google My Business. Your reputation is key, as people a lot of times will check out your reviews to see how, what your reputation is. So it's cheaper to pay somebody, even, if it's hundreds of dollars for missing items or damaged items, than a one-star review where somebody talks about the awful job you might have done. If it's a brand new customer, we look at their order history. If it's the first time they've ordered with us, if you look, there's a lot of signs and indicators where you can kind of see if you're getting played. If that's the case, oftentimes we'll just refund them the money, tell them to go away and not come back again. And that's usually what they're after anyways, is just to get their laundry done for free that they normally cannot afford to get done. And again, it's worth doing that just to prevent negative reviews, showing up on your online presence. Somebody asked how much square feet of space do you have for wash and dry fold services compared to self-service? We are fortunate that we do have a lot of space to work with, but there's typically laundromats try and squeeze in as many washing machines and dryers as they can, so there isn't a lot of free space. But there are ways to work around that limitation. We started off using the same folding tables the customers used before expanding past that. But the more storage space you have, the better. So if you're building something out, that space is invaluable, and the amount of money that you have in storage and for wash, dry, and fold, and as you build your business, probably winds up making more money than the actual machines that are turning. So if you do have the option to have space, utilize that for storage. Another question has to do with what size washers are we using for wash, dry, and fold? It depends on the order. Typically, an average residential order will be maybe a couple triples for the colored clothing, and maybe a 20-pounder or double for the whites. But it depends. It just depends on the order size, whether it's a commercial account order or if it's a large family, or you might have order that has a lot of baby clothing in there. Let's see, how do you organize or tag your pickup and delivery orders to keep from mixing them up with other orders in the delivery van? So at the beginning of the day, our drivers load up the van with all the orders that have labels on them. And the drivers know their route and the customers on the route, and so they place the orders in a convenient to get to space on the van based on where they're stopping first. The orders that are getting picked up, the drivers have a list of all the tickets for all the stops of the orders that they're going to be picking up. So when they do pick up an order, they label the bag before it gets on the van, and then they set the dirty orders bags in a separate area than the clean orders, and each bag is labeled. We also carry address labels, adhesive address labels that you would normally throw in a printer to print out addresses. We carry a Sharpie on those address labels, so any bag that doesn't have a label, or the customer might have provided multiple bags, we write that order number down on those labels and stick it to the bag so that every single bag that's in the van is labeled. Yeah, I'm just scanning through the questions right now, so give me just a moment. All right, question has to do you a basic wash, or do your machines do an extra wash? Typically, we do include the extra rinse with our wash and fold orders. We do the basic wash unless the order warrants a heavy duty cycle. That kind of leads to another question that has to do with, do you charge extra for heavily soiled items? If it's over the top, heavily soiled, we do charge extra. And we do have on our website that, depending on how the order comes in, we do charge an extra $1 a pound typically if it's heavily soiled and we have to just wash that order twice. Another question that's a common question, do you charge extra for wash, dry, and fold for baby clothes? We do not. But it does really slow your attendance down. So there's a lot of people that do charge extra for baby clothing, and for good reason. I think we just standardize it because people like to know what the price is and not have different line item charges at different rates. But definitely our employees complain when they have large orders of baby clothing. So if you do want to charge extra for it, definitely something then I would not, I wouldn't disagree with. All right, so one of the questions, do you have a scale on the truck? And we do not. Early on, we did purchase a scale to keep on the truck for estimates, as we'd often have commercial accounts that would not know how much their orders would be, and we would have the driver go out there to weigh it. I think we only used that once or twice. So these scales are certified for trade. Bouncing them around in the back of the truck is not something where the scale is going to be accurate after a period of time. Most people that ask for a pickup and delivery service, they don't need to know exactly what their clothing weighs, and that's not a question that we get. On occasion, when a driver picks up, 8 30-gallon trash bags full of clothing, the driver will give them a rough estimate of how much that weighs, and to make sure that they're good with that charge. The first time, people rarely ask, well, what is it going to cost? So if they're going to pay somebody for the convenience to drive to their house, pick up all their dirty laundry and do it for them, they're usually not too concerned about the overall price. And if it is more than they can afford, then they don't call you back for the second time. But for the most part, that hasn't been an issue that we've run into. All right, question about the bags wearing out faster by washing them every week. They hold up really well, and we have bags, the nylon bags, not necessarily the canvas bags, but the nylon bags. We do wash them with each of the orders because people put their dirty clothes in the bag, and they don't want their clean clothes going back in a bag that hasn't been washed. They do get softer. They also stretch over time and with the washing. So but the bags hold up for years and years, even with being washed on a regular basis. As far as the bag stretching, had a question earlier about if we charge a flat rate per bag or by the pound. We've toyed with the idea, and there's a lot of people around the country that do charge a flat rate by the bag. They feel that the customer likes to know exactly what it's going to cost every week. What we find is that those bags stretch, and people can stuff more clothing in those bags after a period of time, whether they've been washed or not, just by stuffing clothes in there, the bags stretch. But it's really, really personal preference. For us, we like the fact that people pay for what they're getting and not also having the need to stuff as much clothes in there to get their money's worth. Pet hair on clothing. So what we do is throw it in the dryer. We do have a couple of dog grooming commercial accounts. So we deal a lot with excessive pet hair. Or if somebody has multiple pets at their house, oftentimes we'll throw it in the dryer just on air dry, just to help get the loose hair off the clothing. But on the Facebook post, there's been a few mentions of a product out there that you can buy on Amazon. I have to get the name of it, but those are supposed to work as well. You throw them in, I believe, with the wash, and it helps remove all the pet hair from the clothing. Yeah, this is a good question. Do you charge more if the customer wants her laundry, say, 20 pounds, and she wants it separated into three washers, one cold, one warm, one hot? We don't. We have a minimum charge by the weight, and we use the appropriate machines based on the order. If the customer has special request, and they usually do have some special request, they're asking you to do it the way that they would do laundry if they were doing it themselves. But instead, they're willing to pay you usually a fair amount of money to do something that they'd rather not do, but they do want to make sure it's done their way. That's one of the reasons that they're paying you to do it. So we don't charge extra for the special request, but I have seen many of our customers that do have a separate machine charge. And it's a real simple way to, if they do want to split it up, you have to have minimum order charge as well as for each additional machine, you can charge them a flat rate for that. There's different ways to do that. There's no right answer, but that one allows you to make sure that then you're still profitable at the end of that order. All right. Do you wash darks and lights in separate machines or throw them all in on cold? We do separate orders. And again, we're doing it the way the customer would do it themselves. Well, I've seen a lot of customers throw all their clothing in one giant machine, but we wash clothing the way it should be done. And if you separate the lights from the darks, the lights are going to stay lighter and not get that dingy appearance. Cold water does help with that, but still there's the ideal way to do it is to separate it, and that's what we do. All right, question regarding the scale, what type of scale that we use. We've previously we're using the Mentler Toledo. We're looking at a brand called Rice Lake, both very similar, both commercial grade scales that are USB enabled. So the data is transmitted, both the power and the data are transmitted through the USB cable. And we can send more information on that as well when we send out a copy of the recording. All right, and then I'm going to answer one more question. I think I've got close to the end of them. This has to do with a delivery radius. We started off with a small radius of 8 miles around our store, and we slowly expanded. And again, it usually happened because we'd get a call from somebody that was 9 or 10 miles away. And it's like, do we want our driver out there picking up money for us, or do we want them telling people, no, sorry, you're 1 mile too far? So we quickly expanded to a 15-mile radius. At that point, it comes down to how much you want to advertise to saturate those areas with your marketing. And is your budget big enough to adequately get your brand out there and the advertising out there in those areas? So we have expanded past 15 miles. We didn't do that until we had really built up business enough to warrant expanding further. And at that point, usually winds up, let's get another driver, another van, and then let's add onto our marketing budget to now focus on this new area. One last question, then we'll wrap it up. And again, any questions that I haven't answered specifically on here, we will answer before we send the questions out. Do you charge a different price for wash, dry, and fold that is pick up and delivery versus wash, dry, and fold that is customer drop off? For the longest time, we charged the same price, but we had a different minimum order amount. So for drop off, it was a $15 minimum. For pickup and delivery, a $35 minimum. The idea was that pickup and delivery customers typically give you almost twice as much laundry as a drop-off customer. So we don't want them looking at the website and thinking, well, if I bring it there, I'll save money, and then they wind up giving us less clothing. So we wanted an incentive for them to, make sure there wasn't any barriers to prevent them from scheduling online because of the price difference. Now we do have a different rate for recurring customers versus a one-time customers. That is a little bit different than our drop-off customers. So the pricing is pretty close, but we do provide an incentive for our recurring customers to get on that weekly or biweekly schedule because that customer winds up going from a few $100s a year to maybe $1,500 to closer to $3,000 a year. Is what they spend for somebody that signs up with us for every week. We talk laundry all day, every day, and it's something that we're passionate about. And there's a lot of really good questions coming in. So we will answer all these questions. And if you had any more, feel free to reach out to us after the webinar. But Matthew and I want to thank you again for attending the webinar. We want people to be successful, and wash and fold is a great way to add additional revenue to your laundromat. And there's really no limit to how big you can grow your wash and fold business. So again, thank you. Appreciate everyone's time and joining us today.